I think this, focus on the long term is so important, and it tends to get lost over the last few years. As you say, short-termism is taking over a lot of things. Education has become sort of a mile wide and an inch deep because we have lost that kind of long-term trajectory. For me, success in education or the future education is about identity, is about agency, is about purpose, it's about building curiosity, opening minds. It's about compassion, opening hearts, and it's about, courage, mobilizing our cognitive, social, and emotional resources to actually do something, to make the right choices between the present and the future. And I believe those are also, the best bets against the biggest threats of our times these days, ignorance, the closed mind, or, hate, the close heart, or fear, the enemy of agency. The context for these thoughts is really that the kind of things that are easy to teach and easy to test have also become easy to digitize, to automate. We have sort of figured out how to educate second-class robots, people who are good at repeating what we tell them. But now in the time of artificial intelligence, we need to think a lot harder about what makes us human. How do you live with yourself? How do you live with others? How do you live with the planet? And all of that requires, making good choices between the present and the future, for yourself, for others, for the planet. And you asked, what are we doing concretely on this at the OECD? We are trying to actually first define those futures. It's easy to put this in words. It's actually hard to put the kind of operational meaning in behind that, but that's what you need when you engage in things like curriculum design. So that's the first thing. Second thing, even harder, to make those futures visible with metrics. And I personally believe that's very important. We cannot, change what we cannot see. And as hard as it is, I think we need to sort of try to find ways to make those futures visible and give educators, your policymakers, the tools to track progress. Are we coming closer to those futures? And we've done a lot of work around this, but that's basically very much our future, sort of operationalizing those kinds of thoughts, giving educators tangible tools for curriculum design, instructional design, and then ultimately seeing, to what extent things are progressing and to what extent not, and also to provide, better means for peer learning. One trend that I have observed really over the last 20 years, growing isolation. Teachers walking alone in their classroom, schools not knowing what's happening in the neighboring school, and education systems, thinking, we are different from anyone, we cannot really sort of engage. And social media make this much worse. They amplify those kinds of bubbles and echo chambers, and sort of trying to connect people to create a level playing field so that we have a common language, something that I feel we lack in education. I grew up as a scientist, in science you can talk with anyone anywhere in the world because you have a shared set of kind of words, terms, how you can communicate. We still don't have that in education. And that's where the isolation comes in. Often, the ideologies, the beliefs, rather than, having a good kind of level playing field. So those are the things that how we at the OECD try to make a difference in this. I do believe that the SDGs are as close as we can get to a common shared vision about the future, and I don't think it's so easy to sort of just get people to buy into a future. We can make predictions, but, we don't even know what's going to happen in 3 hours. I think what is most important is that we are ready to, the future is always going to surprise us. So I think what is so important in education and learning is to be ready and open to alternative futures, that we can actually start to think in multiple futures and anticipate, what are those multiple futures? What are the implications? What are the implications for people, for educators? And our ability to learn is important, but equally important is our ability to unlearn and relearn, in alternative ways of futures. And I think that's something that's often missing. We try to sort of linearly project from where we are, where we're going to next. And I think that's really, something that we can strengthen. And when it comes to sort of education, this is about agency, this is about resilience, cognitive resilience, emotional resilience, social resilience. Like, can you actually, when you get to a dead end, open up a new frontier? And I actually, very much agree on this issue of soft skills. I think what we, the soft skills will be the hard skills of tomorrow. Many of the hard skills of today are evaporating. Actually, routine knowledge, that's no longer sort of bearing. I think the soft skills, and that also means, and I think that was a point also made earlier today, that the early years will be the education of the 21st century. Now, the education of the 20th century was about learning mathematics, science when you're 15. But I do think we have to reshape that thinking by being open to alternative, to moldable futures. Not just having one vision of the world, but being able to see the world through different lenses, perspectives, appreciate different ways of thinking, different cultures. I think that's really where the future lies.